Hello everyone, this is Mr.arorora, and today's episode we will continue and finally finish our project. So, in the last episode we finalized our character design and we created our weapon, the cruisers. Now, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks in this video to how to pose your character without breaking anything or without overly tiring ourselves. So let's copy our character, then create a control group and hide it for now. The reason we are doing this is we want to be able to, if we want, be able to go back to this character without having a trouble. Because after this point on, we will modify this and finalize our design. And if you are not happy about it, it's always good to have a backup model. So, without any further ado, let's create a base for now to see how our character is going to stand on a base to let us visualize it, because I'm not gonna use this base and print this one. Instead, I'm going to kit bash a base with my other stuff because I wanted to give him our Chaplin a much more characterized base. Also, I'll show that process while filming the how to paint tutorial, because we're not done with our character yet. At the end of the day, we're going to paint this guy together. So, don't you worry. Alright, at this point, we are finally able to apply all of our modifiers and subdivisions and mirror modifiers, so that because our model is finally finished, so we will need to have a physical model instead of a reference. So I already in the last episode I was going to film this scene as well, but don't worry, we're going to redo the rig together here as well. So we are not going to create a perfect animation rig or anything like akin to that. We are just going to create a simple rig in order to pose our character for once, then we're going to be done with it. So now we are making sure that our character is let's apply our modifiers and see everything is fine. As you can see, there's little artifacts on the face, so let's fix that. after we applied our modifiers and subdivision surface modifiers and mirror modifiers, we will also going to reapply our scale, rotation, and location so that everything is in order and every object has their origin point right in this middle. So also we will going to finally connect the parts that going to go on top of each other. For example, these armor trims and these armor parts of our hands going to be parented or joined together. For now, I parented them at the moment so that I don't have another problem, because after we applied our modifiers, we will also need to separate our model, because of the mirror modifier, we mirrored the object and they're still in the same object group inside the same model, inside the same editing tab. So we don't want that. We want them to be separate, not inside the same object group and object editing space. So we will also need to separate them and realign their origin points. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit. You will be able to see what I'm doing, don't you worry, and I will continue explaining what we are going through. If that's clear, let's get to it. The Emperor doesn't await. It demands his soldiers to be ready. So, we shall. Now, also make sure after separating your mesh into pieces, they're not parented to anybody else or somewhere else that you don't want. Because that will cause you problems. And you will see in this video as well, I missed some parts parenting and that caused me some little problem. It's not a huge problem, but it's a still problem that we want to avoid. Because, like I said, having a bad topology or not applying your modifiers or doing something wrong at this wrong time and forgetting about it will always 100% will cause you a little headache. So as you can see, we already have a bone here, but the placement of the bone is wrong, because each end of the bones are connected to each other, yes, but our upper arm bone should be reverse, as you can see, and we have missing bones as well, so we will need to create new bones for that. So that's what I meant by making sure that we have our parents controlled, or otherwise when we try to apply something like that, it will break our character. So make sure that every part is unparented at this stage and clear its parents before you parent it to our skeleton. That's a really important part. So after we've done that, it didn't happen because our legs are already connected to somewhere else. So in order to make everything much more easier, and this is what we should have done in the beginning of the tutorial, so that we don't have another problem happening like that. So everything is in order now, as you can see. I'm going to simply connect this bone into this arm by just selecting my mesh, then selecting my bone, then pressing pose mode, then just applying, pressing Ctrl P, then applying automatic weights. For this kind of situation, that's already enough. But if you really want to weight paint animation ready project or something that you really want to pose, you really need to make sure that it's not connected via just simple, how can I say it, pre-made settings like apply automatic weights, because it will always break your character and you will need to have a better weight paint for that. So keep that in mind. So as you can see, you will see me try to create our bone the wrong way, so I decided to delete the bone and redo it. In cases like this, don't be afraid of going back a few more steps and redoing stuff like that, because realizing the problem, seeing the problem and realizing what it is earlier in project is always better, and going back is always fine, long as you're okay and know what happened wrong, so that you can fix it along the way. Because sometimes it's not possible to fix every problem at the same time, so let's be mindful of that. Okay, so our legs and arms need to connect into a single point, origin point, otherwise it will cause us problem. So let's create an origin point and some shoulder joints so that our shoulders doesn't go haywire and move somewhere else, because even though I added some bones, we will always need a structure, otherwise it will break off too easily and it will cause us problems, like I said. Well, if you really wanted to pose your model and you didn't use any organic models like the arms and inside of the legs, you can go for just parenting parts to each other, resetting their origin points and moving them like that as well. That also works, but for now I have decided to do something like this, and I will copy this so that in this file I'll always something like this. So if I wanted to go back and edit something, I always have something to use as a reference or make my job faster, so I can use this guy as a template later on. So as you can see, I choose all of my limbs and my bones and put automatic weights on them to see if they're okay. Now, as you can see, it's much better and it's moving according to my design. After applying your weights or anything to your bones, make sure that you check your bones and their movements in order to see if there's something wrong with them. And at this point, I'm going to try putting parents to the object that I'm controlling with my bone. That can work, but a better solution would be applying those parents to the bone instead of the object, because it might not follow, as you can see, because the origin point of the arm is not changing. And when we parent our armor pieces to arm instead of the bone, that happens because the bone doesn't change its origin point. So that because of that, it will not follow our arm. But if we parent our armor pieces to our bone instead of our arm, it will follow the bone instead of the arm. So let's hope for that and make sure that you connect it to bone instead of armor or object, making sure that you connect these correct things to the correct bones. As you can see, after applying every part and making sure that they're connected to the right place, we will continue. So I'm gonna skip forward a little bit and let you see what I'm doing. this stage, I'm alright with my skeleton and my parents. So, I'm going to pose my chaplain as if he's standing on a rock or a dead body and forwarding his weapon against his enemies or forwarding forwards the battlefield to show where to go to his brothers. Because this character is a chaplain and I want him to stand in front of the lines and demand or scream out orders to his brothers or litanies or prayers while at it. And I want him to look, how can I say it? Inspiring. So, let's pose our character, and as you can see, the head moves with the leg. The reason of that is I parented the head directly to skeleton instead of choosing a singular bone. And because of that, it will connect the mesh to the last bone I choose. So that will cause us problems. So make sure that you select your mesh and connect it directly to the bone instead of something else or somewhere else. Make sure of that. Now, let's try pose our character and see how's it going. pose and the shape of the character. So I'm going to duplicate it and hide this one and work on the other one, because I'm going to connect the mesh into one singular object and print it like that. After this point on, it's up to your preference how you print or separate your mesh into printing parts. So what we are going to do is we're going to make sure that our parents, the skeleton that and every piece that we parented to our skeleton is clear of transform. And if we clear the transform, I mean the parents, directly like that, it will revert to its original locations. We don't want that. So in order to do what we want, we will select everything. Then we're going to go to the parent, clear the parent, but keep the transformations. And as you can see, our character holding its pose. Now let's readjust our hand. There we go. Now I'm going to manually edit some of the parts and make sure that they fit into each other and doesn't look off. I'm also going to rotate some of the parts and make sure that they look good enough and doesn't look off. The empty parts you see right underneath our armpits, I'm going to print the arms separately with the head and the backpack. So the legs, the chest, and legs and chest are going to be printed one piece, the backpack as a one piece, arms as individual pieces. The reason I'm going to do that is that after I'm done printing, I'll be able to fill in the gaps, and if something is wrong with the shape or I'm not satisfied with the pose, I can change it according to my preferences while after I cleaned the model and started painting stage. So keep that in mind. Also make sure that you realign some armor parts. After all, we pose our character, but our armor doesn't move according to our character. It moved according to the bones and the skeleton. So make sure that you manually align some parts. Yes, having a mesh like this with too many parts have this kind of tedious problem, but more you do it and more you work on these kind of stuff, you get used to it. So it's standard practice to accept these kind of things at this point. Also, when you're done with your arm, just make sure that you set its origin point to geometry, that it has the most okay center point after we're done with it when we send it to printing. So, we came to the loincloth. As you can see, the loincloth doesn't look appealing right now. So, we can fix that by, we already applied our subdivision surface modifier, so we can scope on it. It's not a single plane anymore. So, we can use our elastic wrap, other grab tools, and even cloth tools to expand and manipulate our loincloth. So, let's do that. And make sure to give it an organic shape, because when our character moves, it will throw and make sure the loincloth moves because of our character's movement. So we need to realistically keep it in a good pose. So also keep that in mind, we're going to paint this piece, so it doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to manually put details to this guy. So don't you worry. And the other thingy is, make sure that this part is thick enough, because it's going to be 3 to 4 centimeters tall and around the same range of that size. So because of that, when you think about it, this part is going to be thin as hell, and while printing, that can break off too damn easily. And I'm telling it from experience, if you don't have a resin printer or a good 3D printer, trust me, it's nightmare. So before you print anything, make sure that this part is thick enough to survive the printing process. So let's give our loincloth some more organic shape, and voila, it looks much better now. Let's make sure to smooth some parts and add a little bit more shape. And when you're satisfied with it, it's done. But we're not done with it yet. Not just yet. We will come back to it. Don't you worry. Now, what another thing could make my character look so badass and seen through battle? A little shoulder cape. Because rule of cool, I like capes. I like having badass capes on my characters. So I'm gonna put a cape. And I'm going to show you how I make a cape from just a single plane. So let's align and put our cape to its place. Afterwards, we're going to add loop cuts and readjust its shape and size and location. Then we're going to put some subdivision surface modifiers on it, then sculpt it. Simple as that. So let's do that. We don't need immediately too many vertices right now or faces. So let's start with simple and make sure that your cape doesn't collide with anything, because I'm going to print this part separately and glue it onto my character, because printing capes connected to something is too damn hard and it has too many possibilities to fail. So I don't want that. And not to deal with that, I'm going to make my life easier and make sure that this cape is separate object than my armor and marine. So it's slowly resembling a cape now. But we only added vertical loops. So let's add some horizontal loop cuts as well. And when we move them, as you can see, even now it has the basic silhouette of a cape now. So let's adjust it a little bit more and see how it looks. Good. Yes. So, okay, let's add a little bit more loop cuts before we add our subdivision. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to delete some of the faces, because when you think about it, this guy's on right now. This character is going to be in active conflict, and yes, not every ammo is going to be deadly, but it doesn't mean that the rubble, the shrapnels, or the bullets not going to tear through his beautiful cape. So let's make sure that his cape is damaged and ruined, and that will give our character much more depth. So let's add our subdivision surface and see how it looks. And as you can see, it looks alright. So after we add our subdivision surfaces, let's use our sculpt tools and move tools to give it much more organic shape. And make sure that our cape looks good and okay. After we will be done with that, we will give it a solidify modifier to make sure that this cape is in just a single plane, or otherwise this is not going to print. You think it will print like a thin paper, but it will crumble like dust, like words in a wind. So we don't want that. So let's sculpt and give our cape some organic shapes and natural movements. Also, you can do the same thing with cloth modifier and applying some force fields, but that's a tedious thing and it will take lots of computing power and rendering. So I don't need that. This will suffice. More than enough. So we will give our cape its depth, and let's apply that, and voila. We have perfectly modeled cape now. So from now on, our model is actually done. So what remains is separating our character into little parts, making sure everything fits in together. As you can see, our cape is colliding with our backpack. I don't want that. I can fix this issue while putting together my miniature, but why not fix it right here and right now while we are still able to do that, right? So let's do that. Let's make sure that I select the correct object and sculpt it. And there you go. So I'm going to give my cape some anchors, like these little cylindrical things, and give them a little bit modeling. And yeah, we are almost finally finished with our project. And this is how you make a DND miniature from Battle Maze for the Million. It's not that hard. You just need some time, patience, and experience. And all of those things combined, you'll get a miniature that you modeled by hand. So, be proud of yourself that you have achieved this, because it might be something small. Even then, it's an achievement that you have done this, see? So, be proud of yourself and pat yourself on the back and say, hell yeah, I have served the Emperor. Right? So, at this stage, we are done. But I'm going to export my model and put it on Bambu Lab Slicer to see if I have any problems with my mesh, because I'm still able to fix it at the moment. And while doing that, why not fix our model? So I'm going to use face selecting mode to choose my faces and make sure that I separated my model into parts I like. So, after I exported my character, I found a little problem. Also make sure that your normals are reallocated outside, because some things are going to be located inside. And in order to see that, we're going to go into this window and turn on that setting. As you can see, our feet are inside out. And when we export this and import it into a slicer, the slicer will not detect the red parts and will say, oh, this part is inside out, so I'm not going to print that. Because the slicer will think that is intentional. Well, it is not. And can we find this problem while we're modeling? If we opened this feature early on, yes. But having too many colors in this modeling session might cause us some problems to make us confused, so we don't need that. So the fix is we're going to go inside the model and manually delete these faces and separate our feet, because for some reason there are some faces inside and we didn't notice them earlier. And that is why we need good topology with patience. And be always prepared for some things like this. Because even though you're careful and you check everything, stuff will happen and you will not be able to find every single problem earlier. So, this is a common occurrence. So I can use remesh tool here. Well, I can't because my object isn't. So let's delete the loose parts, and there's nothing loose here. So what we can do is to make our life simple and easier is just deleting and separating our parts. To separate that from the Mask episode that I showed you a trick. So we select a single edge flow, single loop, we mark it. Then we choose a face that we want to choose whole. So we choose one side of the face of the model we want to choose as a whole. Then we press Ctrl L and it will automatically select one side of that. So there are also some problems here, so I'm not going to manually try to fix that. Instead, I'm going to delete one loop of faces, delete that, readjust my faces, and bring this guy down and select these loops and just press on pre-charge loops. After that, deactivate our faces, and there we go. We solve our problem. We don't need to fix both feet. So because it's a copy of our first feet, we can just simply delete this and copy our feet and mirror it to the other side. That's it. Easy as that. So we're done. So I need to thank you all for joining me in this journey of creation, and thank you all for being a part of this creation journey. If you enjoyed this content, please leave a comment or a like. If you didn't, please let me know in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next episode. So thank you guys. We finish our third tutorial in this channel, and we're growing rather slow, but I'd rather have it slow than doing something wrong. Oh, we almost forget. We need to make sure that our loincloth is thick enough. You thought I forget, didn't you? Don't worry, guys. I have a memory like an elephant. I don't forget at all. We don't want this guy to move while we're resizing it. How can we fix that? Simple. Just go into the object mode. Make sure that you select some of your faces and move them outside. That's it. You don't need to rescale everything. And also we can use our smooth tool to make sure that our vertices doesn't collide with each other. And there we go. This was Mr.arorora. Thank you for watching, and I'll get you in the next episode. Stay safe and stay awesome. Bye.